Mr. Magill is a member of Solon City Council representing Ward 1. He is also on the Public Works Committee for the City of Solon. He is a former Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for Nestle USA. Mr. Magill is also a former radio host, voiceover talent, and small business owner and communications consultant. He has also been a national consultant on organizational change and has managed large company mergers and divestments, in addition to negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts. Mr. Magill and his wife have raised 7 children in Solon, and his youngest is a first lieutenant in the Army and is currently combat deployed in Afghanistan. Mr. Magill has coached youth and middle school sports for a number of years and was the head coach of NDCL's lacrosse team. First question, how do you view the relationship between the city and the Chamber of Commerce? 3 minutes.
Wow, that's a great question. And by the way, thank you for hosting us here this morning. It really has been, I need this? Yeah. Okay, this means you don't get it later. I'll steal it. Anyway, try this one. How about that? Oh, great, okay. Thank you. All right, reset the clock now.
Okay, that's her. I don't have the clock.
Thank you. Anyway, it's a great question. By the way, thank you for hosting us here this morning. It really is an honor to be here to discuss our candidacies with the Chamber of Commerce. And as far as I know, the city and the Chamber of Commerce really have a very close relationship. There are a lot of events that we provide people to that we are heavily involved in. One of the nice things about being on City Council is it automatically includes a membership in the in the Chamber of Commerce. And the Chamber of Commerce plays a very vital role in the civic infrastructure of the city, as well as in economic development for the city. One of the things that I will be talking about probably a little bit later is how can we get the Chamber of Commerce more involved in helping the city of Solon grow, bringing more businesses here. So I'm going to be asking you questions later on as to how you can help the city and what you can do to make the city better than it is. Thank you.
What is the city doing now and can be done differently to attract restaurants and retail to Solon? And how can the Chamber assist?
One of the advantages of being a people person is I get a lot of people talking to me about what the issues are. I have been spending the last few months walking around talking to just about everybody I can. I've probably knocked on 2,500 doors, and I've spoken to a number of small businesses. And what I'm hearing is the city is difficult to work with. We have that reputation now. It is out there. There are people that are not bringing concepts and ideas to us because they believe the city's difficult to work with. I met with a national developer, someone you probably all know, and asked him why he lives in Solon, that he's not involved in any development in the city of Solon. And he told me the city is too difficult to work with. He didn't want to waste his time. So the first and most important step is we have to change that dynamic. We have to find a way that people feel the city of Solon is easy to work with, that we encourage people. The mayor's job is to go out and grab people and say, what does it take for you to set up a business in my city? What does it take for us to help you grow? And that's where the Chamber of Commerce comes in. Because I need the Chamber of Commerce to help me find new businesses that want to locate here, find what they need to do so that we can make it happen. And in addition, we want all of those businesses to feed back to us what they like and what they don't like. Chamber provides an extraordinarily important role. They do that today by talking to businesses. I want to expand that by forming a mayor's roundtable with small businesses on a regular basis, have them meet with me and talk about what they're succeeding at, what they're not succeeding at, what the city needs to do, what the chamber needs to do. We both, the city and the chamber, need to do more to help these small businesses succeed, whether it's having events, whether it's providing exposure to them, whatever it takes, we need to help them to succeed because they need to have the attitude that Solon's a great place to locate, that Solon's a place that's welcoming to them. and that they will be talking to other people, and so the reputation will become, this is a good place to do business. Finally, I'm good friends with Tom Lutz, who used to own Gamekeeper's Tavern in Chagrin Falls. I had lunch with him not too long ago, and Tom and I talked about what it takes to make a restaurant succeed here in Solon. And the dynamics of the restaurant business have changed dramatically, but it's important to get people like that involved to help us understand what we need to do. Smaller, niche-oriented restaurants, ethnic-oriented restaurants, but we, as a city and working with developers, have to create the ambience around them that people want to go there.
This one? Thank you. What has the city done right, and what can the city do better?
I like questions like this. The number of things that the city does well starts with we are fiscally well managed. We do a good job with our money. We provide great infrastructure based upon that. We have a number of other things that are great for us. I won't take Mr. Rogano's thunder away from him. He does a great job with the educational system. We also do a good job in helping the businesses that are in our industrial sector grow and do well. We provide them good services. We also have an incredible civic infrastructure. I mentioned that word before. It's the Chamber of Commerce. It's the Rotary Club. It's the Solon Benevolent Fund. It's the Historical Society. It is all of the different organizations and clubs that make up the city. And our diversity contributes to that tremendously. It is an enormously successful thing. And a lot of people, I've been talking to parents over the last few months, say that their young people are amazed when they go into other communities that it isn't as diverse and it doesn't work as well as Solon does. So that's an important thing to remember. We're kind of unique in that way, and that's an absolutely incredible thing for us. We can do a lot of things better, but the most important thing that we need to do better is to get that sense of excitement, dynamism, and community in our citizens. A lot of people feel that Solon's a great place, but, and that but is the question of, you know, the downtown area. Things that we do as a city that gather all of us together and get us involved. We need to do more of that. One of the things that we used to have is we used to have more boards and committees to get people involved in the city. We're going to do a little bit more of that as well. For instance, we used to have a beautification committee that did a great job with the flowers downtown. Also had some festivals and events that we need to have. Those are things that the city can do to get people involved and make them feel that they have a dynamic and interesting city. In addition, we will be doing some things as a city with the Chamber of Commerce to hold some different events to draw people downtown. Now, I recognize that there is a question about where we do these things downtown, and I'll hold those comments to a later question, which I suspect will get me to the right place. But if we can come up with a gathering space for people downtown where we can hold events and do things like that, then we know that people will feel better about the city and feel more engaged. If we can do that, we've done a good job.
Thank you. Do you know what percentage of tax revenue comes from the business community? The answer is 92%, withholding and net profits. And does that warrant a more business-friendly approach from an administration that you would lead?
Does that warrant?
Does that warrant?
Oh, one would think so. If you're providing 92% of the revenue, I guarantee you, you're going to get attention from us. And I do believe that the mayor's job is to get people involved, is to get businesses involved more here. The mayor should be out there talking to people on a regular basis. 80 to 90% of the job is to be working with the community, particularly the business community, because that seems to be the biggest need right now. Economic development, revitalizing our retail, providing a gathering space for our citizens, helping people be more involved in the city. That's an outreach effort that the mayor has to do, and you have to have the nature to do it and the desire to do it, and spend most of your time working on those things. I think that the city has a great business infrastructure, and we need to take care of it a little bit better. We don't want our businesses saying to us privately, you know, the city is difficult to work with. We don't want them saying, to other communities, the city is difficult to work with. I've met with and spoken to the mayors in our surrounding communities and talked to them about these issues. They know about this. They know that our city is difficult to work with, and they're certainly willing to take advantage of it when it works to their benefit. In fact, a number of developers that I've spoken to have said they will not bring projects to us because of that reputation. I have spoken to commercial real estate brokers, and they have said the same thing. They don't bring clients to Solon because the clients afterwards will say, you know, why did you take me there? It's too much work to get something done there. And they have a reputation for being difficult. So the mayor's job is, A, smooth that process out. We're going to do that. The second part of the job is to convince people that there's a difference in attitude here, that there's a change in the way that we're going to be doing things. That is probably more important than anything else. And the third thing is that getting all of you that are involved in the chamber, that have been so passionate about the city and so passionate about the chamber over these last few years, to be involved in that process. How do we get new people involved in the city? How do we get new businesses involved and willing to locate here? That's how we work together on that.
Thank you. How would an administration led by you improve the process for granting variances and building permits?
Like a lot of things, the planning process tends to generate its own complexity over time. I liken it to a ship that's been in the ocean for a while. After a while, it keeps getting more and more barnacles on it, and so it doesn't go as fast as it used to. So it starts with attitude. The mayor has to set an attitude that we are going to be cooperative with our citizens, and they're going to feel that the process is easy and that we care about what they're doing and want to help them and not get in the way. The attitude so often seems to be today, the answer is no, but then if you apply for a variance, we'll find a way to make that work. We need to start it from the other side. So we're going to do a review commission of our regulations and our ordinances relative to that stuff. We have to do that because it's a symbolic issue as much as it is a real issue. People outside the city believe that this is a problem. And so you don't deal with symbols unless you deal with the underlying factors associated with it. So we need to have a review commission to go in and look at that, have citizens involved so that they feel the planning process is easier and more transparent. Secondly, we outsourced our building inspectors some time ago. That's a big problem. A lot of our building inspectors are adhering to the letter of the law without understanding the spirit of the law because they are not employees of the city of Solon. We need to fix that problem. The third thing is we need to have a friendlier process for both businesses and individuals. We have one of the worst systems infrastructures that I've seen in any community, and I've done consulting to a bunch of the communities around here. I've also talked to a bunch of the mayors. You ought to be able to file a variance request using this. You ought to be able to check the status of your variance request using this. You ought to be able to pull up a blueprint using this. Today, you still have to go into the basement of City Hall to pull out a whole bunch of paper charging things to look at a blueprint. You also ought to be able to take a picture of a problem, send it to City Hall and have them look at that and give you a response within 24 hours. We can index this stuff. This is not magic. These are the things that are available and capable today in other communities. You can find them without too much difficulty. So there are a bunch of things that we need to do, and we need to get started on those pretty quickly because we need to solve that symbolic problem that other communities see for us.
What would your administration do to foster an atmosphere for vibrant economic growth?
When Liberty Ford announced that they were leaving us, the only two people from the city that went to visit them were Councilman Mark Coutura and myself. We went and met with Michael Herrick, who's the owner of Liberty Ford, and we talked about the reasons that he was leaving. We were able to cajole the mayor to meet with Michael Herrick, and it took a number of calls between myself and the law director and the mayor and Michael Herrick before that finally happened. Now, nothing came of that meeting. And I'm not going to speculate on that. But I met with Michael Herrick again just a few weeks ago in his office in Maple Heights, and we talked about the reasons that he left Solon. And so the message to me was that the difficulty in going through the planning and the variance process was part of it. But the other part of it, the more important part of it, was the attitude he detected on the part of the city administration relative to keeping him in Solon. That's where it starts. If we don't change that, nothing else matters. But what I found in speaking to all of the business people I have, and I've spoken to Nestle, I will be speaking to the CEO of Swagelock shortly, spoken to a lot of small businesses here, they want a chief executive in this city that cares about them, that knows the difference between a 10K, a 401K, and a 941, that's scrambled to meet payroll, that knows how to read a balance sheet and profit and loss statement, that's negotiated a line of credit, that's dealt with workman's compensation issues, that knows the difference between standard and actual costing, that has actually handled material requirements planning. And by the way, I wrote the first material requirements planning system ever used by Jeep Corporation in Toledo, along with their vendor releasing and cycle check inventory system. You have to understand these things at the level that they do. If that attitude is there, then the belief will come. And if the belief will come, then change will happen. The second thing I mentioned is we, the Chamber of Commerce and the administration, have to have a mayor's roundtable on a regular basis where we're talking about the issues affecting business here in Solon, what they need and what we can do to help them. The third thing we need to do is have the Chamber of Commerce taking the lead in finding new opportunities for us to create new industries here. I'm friends with the guy that used to be Chief Information Officer for Case Western Reserve. He works for a nonprofit today that provides digital fiber access to communities. He will negotiate with us at rates that are better than Time Warner and AT&T, that we can provide high-speed fiber access here to Solon, to places that don't have it, and we can create new industries. I've met and talked with Joe Regano about providing the space and to do things for an incubator or vocational training that will allow us to create new industries. The state provides 10% tax credits for media companies. We can tap into that. There are a lot of things that we can do and take an active role in.
The city continues to be positively recognized by numerous publications, yet some of you campaign as if everything is suddenly wrong with Solon. Are these publications wrong?
The problem with dealing with somebody else's perceptions of what your city is you don't know the statistical basis or the data that they're working on. So I would say no, there's really no disconnect between the accolades we receive and the kind of city we have. This is a great city. It's been a great place to raise our children. It can be better. There are so many characteristics that they look at when they talk about a livable city. Solon meets most of those criteria. But as I've been talking to people, we found out that there are things that really can improve the city. For instance, I met with somebody yesterday that is planning on a building to provide continuing care here in Solon across from Mustard Seed Market. This will provide a number of units that you can have independent living as well as assisted care. The other thing that I found in walking around is some of our older people want housing that they can downsize to. We can provide that. We're just not taking it as a strategy. One of the things we lack is a vision, and we're not getting measured on that. We don't have a vision of what a 21st century Solon looks like. Our demographics are shifting. Our elderly population will exceed the number of school-age children next year for the first time in our history. So we need to focus on that. That's what our leadership needs to do, is be finding ways to keep our seniors here. I had a woman talk to me just the other day and said, you know, I want to live the rest of my life here in Solon. Well, we need to provide cluster housing that she can do that, and assisted care that she can do that. This new development is a step in that direction. So for me, finding those areas where we can improve the city, and then we'll get even more accolades. I think that's the best thing for us to do.
Why are you running for mayor?
How much time do I have?
Well, I kind of skipped one. Maybe we'll give a little extra time for each one. But
I'm running for mayor because Karen and I have raised 7 children here. We think it's a great place to raise children. I want to make it better. I'm running for mayor because there is so much potential in this city that if we change attitudes and provide leadership and have a vision, this is going to be even a better city. One of the fun things is hearing what other people tell me about the city of Solon and why they like it. My next door neighbor is Chinese. He's here on a green card. He does microbiological research for Case Western Reserve. I talked to him the other day, and he and his wife were out in the yard. I talked to them, and he said, well, I'm so proud that you're running for Solon mayor. Will you move to the mayor's house? And I said, no, this will be the mayor's house. And immediately, his wife jumped in and said, oh good, does this mean our property values will go up? The other side of that is I met an elderly gentleman when I was campaigning on one of our main streets. I didn't recognize his accent, but he was in his 80s. We talked for 15 to 20 minutes about running for mayor, the city, the government. And at the end of that, he told me, he said, I just got my U.S. citizenship a week ago. And I said, wow, that is really great. Congratulations. Thank you for joining our country. Welcome. And then he touched me on the arm and he said, you will be the first person I ever vote for. Now, not only is that a cool story, but it's humbling because it makes you remember that those of us that are running for government are doing it for other people. It's not about me. I know how to create a vision. I know how to move an organization. I know how to get the right people involved. But ultimately, it's about those people that have that faith and that belief in government. That's why I'm running for mayor.
what experience do you have that qualifies you to be our next mayor?
One of the things that I've been doing for the past few months is developing a network, talking to business people, talking to citizens. And I've learned an awful lot about the city in that process, and that learning never stops. So you have to have an attitude going into it that you will always learn. One of the strengths I have in being an executive for a major corporation like Nestle and owning my own business is you learn how to develop a vision. What is it that you want to be? Where are we going to go? Once you develop that vision, then you get the right people involved. Because I'm never going to have all the answers and I'm not going to have all the ideas. I'm a firm believer in creative plagiarism. But there are a lot of other people that are going to help us make this city better than it is today. So developing those relationships and then moving an organization forward. Solon is not just the administration, it's not just the employees, it's the entire community. All of the business people that work here, all the business people that own organizations here but live in other places, as well as the staff, those are the entire community that you have to think about managing. And you have to view it in its broadest terms. And we can't look back and say this is what Solon used to be. We have to look forward. You know, as Henry David Thoreau once said, don't look back unless you're planning on going that way. Well, I'm not going that way. We're going forward. There's a lot of things we need to do. My experience has taught me how to create a vision, how to get people involved, how to move people in that direction, and how to develop those networks that can make it work for everybody involved. One of the wonderful things that I've had in my career was I got to be friends with George Voinovich before he passed away a little over a year ago. And George and I talked about his career at that time, and he said the best job he had was being mayor of Cleveland, because he really got to know the community knew him, and he was able to get things done. And it's that attitude and confidence that I bring to it. One of the things that he said to me was, Doug, you have to be involved in running for mayor of the city of Solon. You've got the background, the experience, and more than anything else, you've got the belief and the concern for the people. I really care about the community, and more than anything else, that will drive me to be successful as mayor.
What are your plans to fill the empty storefronts in Solon?
Now, that's a multi-layer question with a multi-layer answer. The first and most important thing is you streamline the approval process. You have to get people believing that it's easy to do business with Solon. If you don't solve that problem, nothing else happens. The second thing is you have to change attitudes. You have to have the administration and the people that work for them believing that we can do things quickly and people can do things with less difficulty than they can do in surrounding communities, because that's who we're competing against. The third thing we have to do is we have to have a vision. See, one of the problems we do today is we stand by the side of the road with a sign and say, come do something here in Solon. We also think tactically. We put a Chase Bank on a piece of property that's really our downtown. That's our downtown corner. So what we tend to do is say, oh, we've got this piece of property, let's put this building here. You got to think bigger than that. What does that property connect to, and what can we create in that area that might be more interesting than what we have today? If we do nothing else, if we create a gathering space downtown, a place where people can come in the evening on Sundays, walk their dogs and their kids, have a place to walk and feel that they're comfortable and safe and where other neighbors are coming, all of a sudden the perceptions of downtown changes. The ambiance of the city changes. And we don't have to float a $14 million bond issue to make that happen. What we have to do is have the vision. If you have that, then you can talk to these restaurateurs, and I've talked to an awful lot of them in the last few months. They've got ideas, but they want to know that there's going to be traffic there. So our job is to create the vision, our job is to create the opportunity, and our job is to create the space for them to do that, because they will come in with the ideas for restaurants and stores that will make downtown Solon a place that people want to go to.
The next one, this one will be pretty easy, and it's obviously important to somebody, but what is your political affiliation?
Yeah, I have to echo Ed's comments there. It really is not that relevant. It's a nonpartisan race. I can't think of a single decision that Mayor Drucker has made based on the fact that she's a Democrat. I can't think of a single decision that we have discussed in City Council at any time that had any partisan flavors to it. It's just not relevant. Now, I have been involved with the Republican Party in the past. I have been independent more than Republican, but from a practical standpoint, I'm a Solonocrat. I'm going to be focusing on what matters to Solon. That's the only real thing that matters. But I will disconnect us from the patronage politics of Cuyahoga County. That's a fact.
One of the questions here is they would like to know what have your full-time job experiences been, and how long ago did these take place?
Well, I've managed to have several careers, but I started out in the software industry. Believe it or not, I have a degree in psychology and ended up as vice president of IT for Nestle. But I did take calculus in college, and I never believed I would ever use it. When I worked in the automobile industry, we were involved in the very first what we call finite element analysis programs. So we were designing automobile parts using finite element analysis. I see Kerry smiling over here. He may be one of the few people that understands what that means. But it's the mechanism and the technology that is now used to design everything from aircrafts to home appliances, stuff like that. So that's the software background, and I just kept ending up getting promoted because I liked working hard. So I ended up being a data center manager, then an executive with Reliance Electric. Worked with Martin Marietta Data Systems on a software package that was later sold commercially. Then I got recruited into Stouffer's. We were brought in there to split Stouffer's up into 4 companies. And once we did that, I then took over as head of IT for Stouffer Foods Corporation. We re-engineered the entire corporation. Every single business function was redone. And then I became vice president of Nestle Frozen and Refrigerated Nestle Enterprises, working with a number of smaller companies. So I was involved with mergers and acquisitions there. Later on, after I left Nestle, I got involved in organizational change consulting around the country. I spent a year commuting to Tacoma, Washington. Well, we did a company called Nally's Fine Foods, and I was responsible for merging Bird's Eye Foods into AgriLink Foods. And then after that, I came home, founded a couple small businesses, and got involved in radio, did radio for a number of years. I do voiceover work, freelance writing, and currently I do communications consulting. And I have fun with all of it. All of that, I think, provides great background for me to be mayor, because I've been involved with different people across multiple different organizational types. And I'm having fun. I enjoy doing this.
I have a question. I guess as moderator, I get to.
It's not in the rules.
Yeah. We're hungry, Ken.
Okay, I'll be quick. If you're elected 4 years from now, how will you define success? Doug, we're going to start with you.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks. Success for me is three things. The first is that we have grown our business base, that we are more successful economically. You know, one of the things that we do have to deal with is this tangible personal property tax issue relative to our schools. Matt Dolan and I have had discussions about this, as well as Marlene Anielski, our state senator and representative. We're going to be working on that. But if we grow our business base, some of that becomes less an issue than it would be otherwise. The second thing is that the attitude changes. I mentioned earlier about having this sense of community, this feeling that you belong to a dynamic, organization, a dynamic city. I want that to be one of my legacies. That when I walk out the doors, people say, yep, people are more involved in the city, it's more dynamic, it's more interesting than it used to be. And the third thing is, I want people to have a feeling that we are the best. That in Northeast Ohio, we are the best city to be in. I have spoken to all of our department heads. I do that on a regular basis, just being on city council. And I challenged each one of them to tell me what it would take for them to be the best in Northeast Ohio. And most of them said they've never been asked that question before, but it's a great question to ask. And I've already asked them to prepare lists for me that if I get elected, that they can present those lists to me and tell me the top 3 things that they believe that they need to do to be the best in their area in Northeast Ohio. So if we can finish up my term and have those people come back to me and say, you know what, we've done this and we think we are the best, then I'll have been a successful mayor.
What do you want to leave us with?
What?
What do you want? One final thought to leave.
Well, the final thought I want to leave you is thank you for being here and staying through this. I really appreciate everybody attending here and paying attention. Second thought, I want to specifically take a moment and thank my wife Karen for being here and supporting me. None of this happens without her. That's an incredibly important thing to me, and I want to make sure she gets recognized. I also want to say there are an awful lot of people that have been working with me and helping me, and I want to thank them publicly as well. But the final thought is, the temptation is, as you run for office, to say, we're going to do this, this, and this. And I started this conversation by talking about what you need to do as well. So I want to leave you with that thought. There are a lot of things we need to do, both as mayor and as city administration, to make things better here for our citizens. But a lot of it depends on this group, the city council, the Chamber of Commerce, that you guys get involved in what we're doing and be more active and help us develop a better city down the long road. I really appreciate that. Thank you.